Alrighty. Hello, 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 and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about probably everybody's least favorite subject, and this is going to be nobody's favorite video ever. And here we are, and I'm going to say it anyways. Alright, so today I want to talk about why we are so addicted to solutions that aren't solutions. Why humanity right now is operating from a place of looking, continually looking for simple solutions, the answer, the person to blame, the good guy, the bad guy, when it comes to our individual problems, when it comes to the global problems, and why we're addicted to things like wishful thinking and theories and even sometimes religion and what the government tells us, and that I think that we can all kind of agree that right now, especially right now, we're just seeing that there are so many people who are caught up in so many different ways of thinking and different ways of acting and different ways of being. And we're seeing more and more and more groups of people looking at everyone else and being like, they are insane. They are like, how could they possibly believe what they believe? How could they possibly be doing what they're doing? We're seeing a lot of people. We're seeing deep polarization. We're seeing a lot of extremism and division, yes, and then on top of that, we're just seeing a lot of chaos. We're just really experiencing a lot of chaos right now. And that is a normal part of life, which is part of what we're going to talk about today. And because humanity still hasn't quite caught up to where we are yet and why we are where we are, like we have amnesia, we're acting in ways that are not working for us. Okay, which is the bottom line. So the, the of course the reason that I wanted to make this video today is because when I look out at the world and I just see so much struggle and so much chaos and so many people who have such a they have such a strong hold on what they think they believe reality is. And it appears that there are just these large groups of people, all different types of groups of people, who are willing to hold on to that, whatever it is they believe, that thing they think is the answer to whatever they think their pain is. And they are willing to hold on to that, despite all evidence to the contrary that their ideas are false or that it's harmful or that it's not the answer. And at the same time, we are living in a world right now where it literally feels like people are operating from literal different realities, like actually different facts. It feels like however this person came to this conclusion about what is going on in the world is the exact opposite conclusion to what this person came to. And with the pandemic that's going on right now and just all the kind of upheavals that are happening everywhere around the world that have always been happening, we're seeing just like it feels like there are different realities that people are living in, and it seems almost, and all these different realities are conflicting with the other realities, and we are conflicting with each other. And I wanted to just speak to what I believe is the overarching pattern here, because I do believe there is an overarching pattern, and it's an overarching pattern that I have been witnessing in my work as someone who works with people and works with trying to help people make their lives better. This pattern that I've seen my entire life, okay, and that is that reality is complex. Reality is very complex. And we, as human beings, tend to err towards wanting simple solutions and straightforward solutions. And we're not seeing the complexity. And because we are afraid of the complexity, and because we resist the complexity, and because we look for that simple answer, we actually are stopping ourselves from being able to move forward. Okay, so the first bottom line thing to understand is that humanity does what it does. Everybody in humanity is doing what they're doing because they think it's what they need to do to survive and to have pleasure, right? If we can just take a step back and understand that everybody on earth, all human beings, when we look at someone and we're like, how could you possibly do that? How could you possibly think that? How could you possibly be that way? And even when we look at ourselves, when we look at our own self-sabotaging behaviors, when we look at our scapegoats, when we look at our coping mechanisms, when we look at our addictions, when we look at all the places in ourselves that we can't get our lives together, when we look at all the things that we think are wrong with us, like our intrusive thoughts and the ways that we seem to be moving counter to what is actually good for us, the truth is you're always going to discover when you take your inner journey is that what you're doing and what you're thinking and what you're believing comes from this is what you believe reality is. This is what you believe the truth is. This is what you have been indoctrinated your entire life to believe, so much that it's not even a belief. Like, you're not conscious of your beliefs. And this is why, again, like the spiritual community that's just like, we can change your belief systems. It's like it's so much more complicated than that, because our beliefs were programmed into us before we had cognitive capacity to even know we were being programmed with beliefs. What we were given as this is what reality is, for most of us, are beliefs. It's not how reality actually is. But because it was what we were given from the very, very, very beginning, we've never thought to question it, because it's the water we're swimming in. We're the fish in the water who don't even know they're in water. It's that this is why the awakening path, right, for all of human history, has been so extreme. Like, people going to monasteries, people living in the mountains, like getting out of society, doing all these things, and enlightenment being espoused as like one of the hardest things you'll ever journey towards, because you're having to become aware of the program using the program. Yeah? And so again, everything that we're doing forever and ever and ever, every human on this planet, what we're doing always is what we think is the best thing to do, what was programmed into us. So again, I'm saying the word think, but you could translate that as what we were programmed instinctually in our nervous systems, in our bodies, in our unconscious, subconscious minds, is what is required for pleasure, success, and growth. Okay? Because again, fundamentally, if we can understand that no matter how evolved we have become as a human species, we are not different. We have not become something other than nature. We are still nature. We are a very evolved form of nature, but we are not nature. And therefore we haven't evolved out of the base characteristics of life on this planet, which are shared by all life, which is life wants one thing. Life wants to grow and express. Every form of life has a blueprint, has a genetic specific blueprint, a pattern that it expresses as. And that in order to be alive in this reality on earth that we live in, there has to be room for growth. That pattern has to be able to evolve. That pattern has to be able to expand into something new. That pattern has to be able to adapt to the ever-changing environment. They say, what is the one constant of life? Change. You are life. So the one constant to you is that your blueprint has to be able to be continually changing, evolving. And this is paradoxical. We have a hard time understanding this because you're not going to become something other than what you are. Yeah, you have a specific blueprint which fits a specific mold. Like I say, I'm never going to be a frog. I'm never going to evolve into a unicorn. But, and this is, they talk about this in psychology and in philosophy a lot too, that like we think of ourselves as having a consistent self all through our lives. And yet, pretty much everything about us changes throughout all of our lives. And we still haven't figured out what consciousness is and where consciousness, resides and where it comes from and what it is. And a lot of people are saying that it is something that is arising out of the brain, and I'm sure maybe, or maybe not, but the consistent self, it's just, we gotta kind of understand that there's this paradox to being a human being, a conscious human being, which is that it's kind of like that boat metaphor, that the boat that leaves the harbor, if you replace every part before you dock at the next place, is it the same boat when it gets to the new destination? And that is kind of how we are, that we have a core of truth to us, a core blueprint, a core pattern that is constantly being evolved. And so people who know me, who have known me my whole life, can say like, that's Allie, that's like an Allie thing, that's a thing that she would do, that's a characteristic you've always had. And yet I'm totally different than I was as a 3-year-old. You see? So we all have this blueprint of who and what we are that must be constantly evolving and expanding and changing and growing and becoming something new in order to be life, because that's what life is. So life is that which continually grows in alignment with its pattern. So both of those things exist together. It's not perpetual growth of infinite possibility. It's not that. It's not you figure out who and what you are and then you're that now. It's not that either. It's you have finite capacity to grow. And if you don't grow, you're dead. That's what being dead is. Yes? So every single one of us, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're pursuing, no matter what our habits are, it all boils down to we're trying to express our genetic potential. That it's as simple as that. We are very complex. We are very unique. We are constantly evolving. We have lots and lots of consciousness and intelligence, and we want to be ourselves. And this is why I talk so much about breaking yourself free from consensus reality, because, again, why are humans so addicted to approval? Why are we so addicted to doing the right thing? Why are we so afraid to go outside the bounds of normal? Why do we why do we have these boxes, these societal boxes of like, this is what's good, this is what's bad, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. And again, we have all of these now different fractions, and forever we've always had these different ideas within humanity of what is right and what is wrong and what is good and what is bad, and where does that all come from? Well, again, it comes from lots of different individuals feeling around in the dark for how to best get their needs met. And we have to understand that as a humanity, we are not very aware of how reality works. And that is evidenced by how much pain we're in. And how I also want to make clear that I don't believe personally that the human being was perfectly designed to live on Earth. And if we just take a second and like think about that for a second, I think it becomes very obvious that we were like quite poorly designed to live on Earth. If we had been like intelligently created to just enjoy life, we are not. Our bodies, our minds, our ways of being. Life has been very, 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 very challenging for the human being forever. We are incredibly vulnerable to the environment that exists. And we are incredibly intelligent, and we have made a lot of progress in making life easier for ourselves, right? We've invented so many things: infrastructure, sanitation, medicine, communities. We've figured a lot of things out that have taken us out of the food chain, that have made us less vulnerable to weather, that have made us less vulnerable to drought, and we've learned systems of food production and distribution and create like all of these ways of doing things that have made surviving less and less challenging. But we've done that through innovation. We've done that through evolution. And even in our bodies, right? Every time we're exposed to a new pathogen, sometimes it kills us. Sometimes it makes us very sick. And then the body adapts through an immune system reaction, and then we're immune to that the next time we get it. But not always. A lot of the time we have viruses and we have things that go around that take people out. And that has been happening forever. So a lot of us have this idea that if we just return to doing everything natural, all of our problems would be solved. And the truth is, like, no, that's absolutely not true. So many unnatural things that we have developed and that we have created are the reason we're doing so well, the reason we live so long, the reason we actually have health in the ways that we have it. And there are many natural things that are completely antithetical to our survival and that we have, like I said, adapted out of. So again, right now in the world, we're living in a place where the human mind is kind of addicted to this idea of disclosure. And I think that this is what it all boils down to. Everyone has their pain. Everyone has their pain. Everyone has their suffering. And most of us don't understand that, like, I'm in pain because I'm not able to express my genetic potential. There's something that's holding me back from expressing my genetic potential. And for all of us, it's multifactorial. It's many, 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 many different things. We all have different bodies that aren't perfectly designed to survive. So some of us have genetic bodies that are just more robust, healthier, that are just naturally more conducive to living on this planet. They're a body that evolved and are more adapted to the circumstances of life. And then we have other bodies, like mine, for instance, that are genetically incredibly weak. And right, this is something I've fought with my whole life, is this idea that, like, really, like, my body is just objectively not very hardy. And I've had to work very, 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 very hard, like a lot harder than a lot of other people, to keep myself healthy, to keep myself alive, to keep myself going. And this is one thing that I know that humanity really struggles with, is just this idea that there are some people out there who are like, why do you have to do all this stuff? Because I don't have to do any of that stuff. And there must be something wrong with you. You must be doing something wrong if you can't just kind of eat normal food and exercise and sleep and like be relatively healthy. Like, what's wrong with you that you're so sensitive? And it's like, nothing is wrong with me. We're just different. We're genetically different. You have a predisposition to being hardier, and your body is more adaptable versus my body being incredibly sensitive and not so adaptable. And we're, as a humanity, again, we're really struggling with the idea that life is incredibly complex, okay? And so we all have this pain of not being able to express ourselves on some level. And for all of us, the systems that exist, the governmental systems, the religion systems, the education systems, the ways that life is set up right now, and the way that life has always been set up, has just been humans trying the best they knew to give themselves what they thought they needed to escape the pain that they were in, that they didn't even understand why they were in it. Okay? Humanity doesn't understand that when it's in pain, it's because it can't grow. That's always the root of the pain. When we're in pain, it's something is antagonizing us. And that is not always a bad thing. That's not a negative thing. I don't want to say that pain is bad, because we learn from pain. And that's part of being alive. And for instance, like when we lose somebody that we love and we're in pain, it's not bad. That's not a bad thing. There's the reality of life that growth often comes through challenge and conflict and things not being easy. Like that's what sparks the evolution, is the needing to adapt to circumstances that are challenging for us, and the needing to adapt, and the needing to grow, and the needing to change and evolve. It comes from the challenge. And so there's nothing wrong with that. That's not the problem. We don't actually want to get rid of challenge. We don't want to get rid of and get to a place where humanity has it all figured out, because then we would cease to exist. Yeah? But at the same time, there is things that we can learn from what we're experiencing now that inform us as to this new way of being that could be more harmonious. So again, I'm trying not to speak directly to anything that's happening currently, because again, what's happening currently in our political environment and online with social media and all the different theories of what's really going on, and the distrust of the government and people like in religion and people in all these things, this isn't new. Okay, this isn't new. This isn't new. This isn't the first time this has happened. This isn't even a unique expression of what humanity has always done. Okay? Our fear of the other, our demonizing of the other, our deep yearning to figure out who the bad guy is, figure out who the good guy is, and just be on the side of the good guy so the good guy can save us. This looking for the savior, this looking for the answer with our health, with our relationships, with our bodies, right? Like right now, you go online and just everyone is selling you the 30-day, 15-day, 10-day, I'm going to change your life. Everyone is selling you the plant medicine journey that's going to take you from zero to emotionally healed. Everyone is telling you that I just did this little practice and now I'm found my purpose and I'm living my purpose and everything is great. Everyone wants to tell you that I just did the juice fast and now my body is healed and everything's perfect. And then when it gets into more kind of like global issues, it's just like, if we just all went vegan, we could stop climate change. If we just all stopped using plastic, if we just got rid of immigrants, like if we just put up a wall, if we just, whatever the solution is, if we just get rid of the leaders, because the idea is that there's the ruling elite and they're the reason for all of our problems and they're controlling everything, and if we just got rid of them, we'd be saved. Or medicine is the issue, right? If we all just went back to natural remedies, we'd stop having all these horrible side effects. If we just got rid of billionaires and got rid of corporations, the world would be fixed. And over 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 again, we're seeing humanity do this. We're seeing humanity has done this. This is how leaders have garnered huge swaths of people to follow them into committing horrible acts. Is they figured out what the people's pain point was. You don't have a job, you don't feel secure, you don't have health care, you don't feel safe, which again, not hard. As a charismatic leader, if someone wants to start a cult, if someone wants to start a political movement, if someone wants to start any kind of movement at all you have to do is zero in on a pain point. Okay, and they teach you this in marketing, which I always just found couldn't do it. That you pick a pain point that people are experiencing, and then you show them how you're the solution, or your product is the solution, or your thing is the solution. And that is what capitalism is right now. Capitalism is just over and over and over again. This is your pain point. I'm going to sell you this thing that's going to fix that pain point for you. All political leaders are saying, this is your pain point, here's how we'll fix it. Medicine, corporations, consensus reality in general, it's all based on this. Here's your pain, here's the simple solution, I'm going to sell it to you. And your light worker, Shaman Channeler is doing the exact same thing that Coca-Cola is doing. They're zeroing in on what they think you want, and then they're selling you a simple solution for that thing. And we are all addicted to buying into it. We are addicted to buying into it. We are addicted to buying into it. And then again, we become so deeply hopeful that this thing that we have decided is the thing that's going to take us out of our pain is true. And we need it to be true. That even when it proves itself false, even when reality proves itself to be more complex than that, even when events don't go the way that we've been told they're going to go, and our gurus are wrong, and we're right, so we're told by the wellness influencer that if you take this supplement, it's going to do this for your body, and that doesn't happen. If you do this diet, this is going to work for you, and it doesn't happen. They say this thing is going to happen in politics, and it doesn't happen. We're constantly being told this is what's going to happen, and then it doesn't. And then us, rather than going, well, oh, okay, so that must have been wrong, we double down. Or we think we did it wrong. It must have just been some flaw in us. Well, I did the diet wrong, or it worked for a little while and I just fell off of it, or I wasn't being spiritual enough, I wasn't being high vibration enough, or whatever. And then at the same time, and in that, we're looking for disclosure. That's kind of bringing this loop back, is that we're all looking for the answer. We're looking for the guru that has the answer. We're looking for the teacher that has the answer. We're looking for the governmental body that has the answer. We're looking for the alien that's going to tell us the thing. We're looking for the answer, the person who has the thing. And when we get that disclosure, or when the truth comes out to the masses, because there's some hidden truth somewhere that's pulling the strings for everything. And when that finally comes out, we're going to have a new earth. We're going to have a new reality. We're going to have the new way. And what I'm going to say is that that doesn't exist. There is never going to be a disclosure that changes your life, that fixes all of the problems we have in humanity. That is the solution. Because all of humanity's problems, individually and collectively, are complex lineage problems that we have evolved into, that have only imperfect, step-by-step solutions. That is reality. So, like, taking this back to my work, I have a lot of people that come to me and they're just like, how do I become my own safe place? How do I learn to love myself? How do I figure out what my emotions are telling me? How do I figure out how to listen to my body? And they're looking for me to give them a 30-day program, or a this is how you do it, a step-by-step guide. And that exists to a degree. But the reality is that these tools that we learn for how to learn from reality, which is what all of that is, are things that we learn step by step by step by step by step, imperfect step by imperfect step, little bit of information by little bit of information that evolves over time. How did we get to where we are in society right now? Where there's still racism, where there's sexism, where there's homophobia, where there's complete, in unequal distribution of resources, where we have people who are absolutely overtaking the rights of other people and exploiting them. And it's like, if we look back through human history, this has been how humans have operated forever. This is, like I said, nothing is new. Nothing that we are seeing today is new. We have had groups of people fighting with other groups of people over the resources forever. Humanity hasn't changed. We have changed the way we fight over resources. We have changed the dominant people at the time. We have changed, right, who we say doesn't deserve to have resources and who we say does. But ultimately, we're looping and looping and looping as a humanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again. Because we haven't quite understood, right, like, that the best way to survive is collectively. That, and like I say, right, like, we're kind of right now seeing a natural movement towards people wanting sovereignty and individual sovereignty. So you'll look at the spirituality of the day, the New Age spirituality, but even religion at this point, like Christianity has molded itself to this very much, like modern day Christianity, modern day religions have molded themselves more and more to this idea of the self and the you are your own guru, and or right, God wants to bless you, and if you're doing life right and you're spiritual and you're doing your spirituality correctly, you will be healthy and you will be abundant, and you as an individual will be special and given more, and all of these things. And if we can kind of understand that we are evolving out of a humanity that forever relied upon the group and being a part of the group and fitting into the group was how we survived. And in order for that to happen, we had to sacrifice our individuality. So on a global scale, fitting into the tribe meant you couldn't be a threat to anyone in the tribe. You couldn't be a threat to anyone in the group, in the community, because the community relied on itself, on each other. Survival was not possible individually. And so life was built upon self-sacrifice for the greater good, for the whole. And as much as, and that was very, very hard. And especially when we had like monarchs and all of these things, where we had these people at the top who controlled the resources and then were dictating down on purpose, because again, right, this constant humanity being in the state of resources are the thing that make us feel safe, resources are the thing that make us feel secure, and so we're constantly doing what we think we need to do to shore up the most resources for ourselves. And we feel vulnerable and we feel scared and we feel not okay and not safe when we don't have access to resources. That's normal, that makes sense. And so humanity has been evolving itself and organizing itself around that structure of resources equal healthy. The more that I can get for myself, the better. And again, we moved through a very, very, very long time period of human history where everything was dependent upon the tribe working together and nobody in the tribe conflicting with the patterns of the tribe. And there were leaders, and then it became more and more leaders, and then we got like governments, and then all these things, but it's just like an evolution on that same pattern. And then as children, every single one of us experienced that, where in our childhoods, we weren't celebrated for who and what we are individually. We all were indoctrinated into a culture that says this is how you have to be. This is what you have to be accepted. And being accepted is how you survive. Because in your childhood, being accepted means your parents provide for you. Your caregivers provide for you. Because you can't provide for yourself. And if they don't accept you, and if they don't love you, if they reject you, they're your source for everything. So that's a pattern that's programmed in from day one. And then when we're trying to evolve, we swing way the other way to like, no, I want to be sovereign. I want to just do whatever I want. I want to be whatever I want. And again, most of us don't understand that consequences of actions come from reality, not from people. And that's not totally true. Like, obviously, we have human systems that humans are overriding reality. Like when we get sent to prison for doing something that is true, humans are overriding reality. There is a negative consequence to something that in real reality isn't negative. Okay? And that's because of the systems that we have that are built on misunderstanding of reality. Why are we where we are? Because we have systems that we have built that are counter to reality. When we're in pain as a humanity, it is because we are breaking ourselves against reality. So as humanity has been evolving, we have been continuing to build systems that counteract real reality. And rather than changing and evolving and adapting, we double down and we keep going because we're afraid to learn, right? Because a lot of us, every single one of us, we have learning trauma. Every human being has a learning trauma of just when we do something, we expect a certain result, that result doesn't happen. We don't know why it didn't happen. We're in pain, we're confused, we don't have the answer, we don't know how to learn, we got shamed for that. And so we double down. We need to believe we already know, and if we just keep doing what we're doing, eventually it's going to work. And that's what humanity is doing over and over and over again. So my point is, there are no simple solutions to the complex reality that we live in. There is no disclosure that's going to happen that's going to change everything. There is no thing that's going to happen in your individual life, in life at large that's going to change everything. It's not going to happen because everything is systems. Everything is a complex system based on a complex reality. So in my life, right? Like when I look out and I see people who are all the isms, of course there's a part of me that goes like, what is wrong with those people? How could you be like that? But I know that it's coming from their experience. And this is not to be an apologist for any of this, okay? Because in our individual lives and on a global scale, there are things that objectively cause harm. Okay, I am not a moral relativist in that, well, everything is permissible, everything can happen, there is no such thing as good and bad, and therefore we should just do whatever we want. Okay, again, we need to be more pragmatic. When we're looking for the what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, and I say there is no right and wrong, there is no good and bad, there just is reality. That does not mean that everything in reality is helpful. That doesn't mean that everything in reality, that everything that happens is productive, leads to pleasure, is constructive, is evolution, right? If we all understand that what feels good to the human being is the same thing that feels good to anything in life, which is that which helps us grow, we can understand then that anything that feels bad, anything that harms us, is that which takes away our capacity to grow. So this is why something like an addiction feels good and bad at the same time. Because an addiction, when we're addicted to something, what we need to understand is that whatever it is that we're addicted to is meeting some need in us. It's doing something for us. There is a positive feedback. Either it's helping us not be what we got rejected for being, which then tells our nervous system that we're going to be safe by not expressing our true selves. The addiction is helping us to not express our true self, which then makes our nervous system feel safe because expressing our true self got us rejected, which then got programmed into our nervous system that we're going to die. Or when you're involved in your addiction, you numb the pain of having to live a life that doesn't align with what is your growth. Or when you're in the addiction, that's the only time you ever actually are able to express something true about yourself. You're going to find always that there's some positive benefit in the addiction. And that's why, and that it's only in that addiction that you get that need met. So if you were to try to just white knuckle your way into letting it go, you can't do it. Because then you're just not getting the need met at all. So no matter what pain comes from the addictive behavior, which there always will be, because when we're not meeting a need in an intelligent, conscious way, we're meeting the need in the shadow, unintelligent, unconscious way, there's always going to be a part of it that is destructive, that is objectively harmful to ourselves and others. So the addictive behavior isn't wrong or bad. It's a poor way, an incomplete way of meeting a need. And so if we really want to evolve past being addicted to something, we have to first say, what am I getting out of it? What would I lose if I were to give up this addiction? Then we have to look at what's the objective negative consequence of interacting with the addiction. Because there is an objective negative consequence. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called an addiction. It would just be a thing we do that only brings pleasure. So the negative consequence exists. When we remove morality, when we remove good and bad, when we remove right and wrong, it doesn't take consequence away. It doesn't take pain away. It actually makes it clearer. This is why I am such an advocate for self-love, Because when you can love yourself safe enough to say, I'm doing this thing, it doesn't make me bad, it doesn't make me wrong, it doesn't make me terrible, it just causes pain. There's an objective, painful outcome. And that's not bad, and that's not wrong. That's reality showing me that I'm breaking myself against reality. So if we take these two things, what am I getting? So what's the positive intention? What is the negative consequence? We can start to put those two things together and say, okay, here's what I'm needing. Here's how I'm meeting that need right now. What are some different ways that I can try to meet this need in a more harmonious way? And then we learn more about reality through that. And this is what we're seeing on a global scale. Humanity has set up systems that cause pleasure on some level and pain on others. And because we're so addicted to morality, and we're so addicted to good and bad and right and wrong, and people in the spiritual world are doing it just as much as secular people, we're all looking for who's the bad guy, who's the evil one, what's the evil system, what's the thing we should be fighting against because it's bad. And instead, we're missing the forest for the trees because it's not evil, it's not bad, it's objectively out of alignment with reality. Racist people aren't bad people. Their programming is objectively out of alignment with how true reality works. And the way that they got there, for all of them, they honestly got there. No one wakes up in the day and decides, I am just going to hate a group of people for the sake of it. As much as it looks like that, as much as it feels like that sometimes, when we listen to what they're saying, we're like, you're just a hateful person, or you're just evil, or there's something missing in you. And what I'm saying is that if we look around and we see this world of people who seem to truly lack empathy and lack the capacity to put themselves in other people's shoes and all this stuff, I still see trauma. People who do that are traumatized. And I understand that that can be very difficult to accept when we're seeing somebody who's rich and powerful and has all the money and all the resources and all these things, thinking like, how could it be that they are afraid? And then it sounds like I'm making an excuse for them. No. We want to believe that they're evil because we don't want to say that they're afraid, because then that's like saying that it's okay that they're doing what they're doing. And I'm saying it's not that. It's none of those things. It's not okay that they're doing what they're doing because it's objectively causing harm. If we take the morality out of it, we don't say it's bad or wrong, it doesn't cease to cause harm. What it does is it helps us to say, okay, why? Why do you believe that thing? Where are you getting these ideas? How were you programmed? And again, if we look all throughout human history, we fear each other for a multitude of reasons, because we have lived on an earth that we didn't know how to survive in, and we have been threats to each other, and we didn't know how to have enough, and we didn't know how to share, and we wanted more for ourselves, and we created these systems of, well, and right, the not enough that I rail against, that we all live in this idea of not enough, and capitalism is built upon not enough. We inherited that from hundreds of thousands of years of living in nature and not having enough. And another tribe comes and they take all your shit. Or another tribe comes and they bring a disease. And then you want more for yourself and more for yourself and more for yourself, because, of course, from forever, we have been afraid of death and we didn't know how to stop it. And it seemed like the people that had the most lived the longest, lived the most pleasurable lives. And we still operate like that because we still don't really know how to stop disease, how to stop natural disasters. We're all still in a state of human trauma, which is to be vulnerable on this planet that isn't set up to nourish and nurture us. And as much as we can have spiritual experiences, and there are things, especially like that have happened in my life, where it does feel like I'm being taken care of by something greater than myself. Have been many, many, many times where it just felt like everything just fell apart no matter how hard I tried. And we're a humanity, and I think that, again, like, I hope that spirituality starts to move in the direction of, like, let's acknowledge that we're all traumatized by how hard it is to be alive. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you were born. I don't care what you were born into. The systems that exist right now, and where we got those systems, and how life is, it's hard. And it's scary for everybody. And we're, like, people who are truly finding their way and finding their blueprint and finding themselves just aren't hateful, and they have empathy and these parts of the self that help them be more of a collective thinker, right? They've moved past this individual spirituality, this individual sovereignty thing, into a collective, right? So not the I sacrifice myself for the collective, which was where we came from. Not, okay, well, now I'm going to swing way the other way into just pure sovereignty, and it's all about me, and if it works for me, it works for me, and this is my reality, and this is what I believe, and I am my own guru, and everyone else, like, there's no experts above me, and there's no one that could possibly know better than me, and it's just my intuition, and it's just my body. We swing into that, and that is very narcissistic in its way of expressing, and we're seeing what that looks like now. Like, that spirituality is showing itself for what it really is, which is, it's not healthy, and it's not love-based, and it's not light-based. It's fear. It's just a fear of losing yourself, which, again, is natural, because so we have all been raised feeling like we had to sacrifice ourselves. That's how culture has been. Culture has been fit in, just do the program, because that's how we're all surviving. And now we're evolving past that, and so we've swung the other way. And then, like I say, when you really are starting to come into it, you're going to be seeing, okay, yeah, no, it's how does my individuality serve the collective? How do I be myself in a way that works to support everybody? And that's intelligence. That's real intelligence. And until we get there, we're going to continue to look for these little solutions to these little problems, to these big problems. And when we start to really get there, we no longer can see evil, right? And this is the other thing too, is like, a lot of people are in this state where they believe that they have the answer to what would solve all of our problems. And if leadership and if government and if all these other groups aren't doing that, they must just be stupid or evil. When in reality, the real reason that we're not seeing massive fixes to these big problems, yes, there's corruption. Yes, there's people who are absolutely holding a system the way that it is to benefit the few and to exploit the many. That has been forever. That is true. But even that, right, changing that is not just fixing this thing, or this thing, or this thing, or some disclosure. There's no disclosure that needs to happen. We can see it. We know why it's happening. People at the top believe that things are what give you security. And so they're doing whatever it takes to make sure they shore up more things for themselves. More power, more control over the resources. It's just that. And they're doing it in a whole plethora of different ways. And so what is the solution? Well, the solution is collective. The collective starting to understand that it is our individuation that gives us our gift for how to serve the collective. Because right now, this sovereignty thing, this every man for himself thing, actually makes us more vulnerable to the structures we're trying to say we're fighting against. Because the more alone we are, the more isolated we are, the more divided we are, the more we need these structures to provide for us, because they control the resources. The more the collective comes together, works together, the more we are going to be able to shift into new systems that are for the collective. So our sovereignty spirituality isn't going to work for us if it's not rooted in a global empathy. If you're not learning what it is that you need for yourself, and then saying, okay, well, we all need that. And this is why I am so passionate about talking about finding your enough. Like getting out of this matrix. The matrix to me is the not enough. You need more things, you need more money, you need more fame, you need more. It's all this more. No. That's what keeps us trapped in this system. It's not that. And then we have to stop being afraid of the imperfect next step. Because the next step from where we are as a humanity, there is not going to be the disclosure that takes us from where we are to where we want to go. Not in our individual lives and not in our collective lives. This is what we have to let go of. That there is an answer, a savior, a fix that's going to take us from here to there. There isn't. We need to take all of the information that we have and then we take a step. So I am not pro or anti-vaccination. I am not pro or anti-medication. I am not pro or anti-government. I am pro taking the next step. What is just the next imperfect step? Because there isn't a clean, beautiful answer to anything. Like in my individual life, I've been told over and over and over again, just do a juice fast. You'll fix your digestive stuff, just do a juice fast. Just do a water fast. Just go on this diet. Just take this supplement. And I knew that that wasn't true because as it would turn out, right, like I have all of these very complex things going on with my body. And if the leaders and the gurus that you're following are afraid of complexity, they reject anyone's experience that doesn't align with their own, where they oversimplify reality. It's just, this is just going to happen. If they tell you that the answer to whatever's going on the earth right now is to sit in meditation and vibrate your way into a new space, I'm going to just offer, you might want to question that. Because yeah, sure, energy is real, and meditation is real, and what we put out is what we get back. Yeah, sure, okay, I agree with that. But ultimately, progress is made one little step at a time, one pragmatic step at a time. In your life, you're not going to solve your body problems. There isn't a thing. There are many things. There isn't a thing that's going to fix your relationships. There isn't a thing that's going to help you understand what your calling is, and then you're going to do it, and then you're going to be inspired and excited forever. Life is always going to be changing. Life is always going to be evolving. There's just the next step. And sometimes the next step is shitty and hard. And that's the other thing that I think most spiritual teachers just won't tell you. That sometimes the next right thing sucks. It's just hard. You're sick and you're tired and you just have to get a job, even though you're sick and you're tired because you need to make some money to buy some supplements and food. Like, I've been there. Where getting myself to where I am now was just a whole bunch of hard steps. There wasn't I'm going to wait for the bliss thing that's going to take me from where I am to where I want to go. It didn't exist. It was just a step. It was a pragmatic step. And like I said, sometimes it was just hard. And that's also humanity on a global scale. We are still trying to figure things out. We have not had it figured out and then we lost it. There aren't people who have it figured out and they're hiding it from us. Because if people really truly had it figured out, they would have it figured out that humanity working together is what's best for all of humanity. So the people in power don't have it figured out because of the way that they're acting. They show us by shoring up for themselves, by shitting all over the earth, by corporate buyouts, all that stuff. They don't have it figured out. I don't consider that intelligent. Because it isn't. It's not intelligence. Intelligence is, oh, okay, no. Cooperation is what is best for all of us. Because we don't want stuff for the sake of stuff. We don't want power for the sake of power. We don't want resource for the sake of resource. That doesn't satisfy us. We want to be able to express. And in order to be able to express, we have to have enough resource. We have to have enough safety. We have to have enough stuff. Okay, poverty isn't the answer either. That's why I'm saying, for the people out there who have gone without, your lesson is how to learn to take enough. And then for some of us, we need to say, we're taking way too much. If we really have it figured out, the more we can be ourselves within the collective, the more harmonious everything is. We don't actually want the stuff. We don't actually even want the acceptance and the approval of everybody. We only want that because we think that is what is required for us to be able to then have the life where we can be ourselves. That's the disclosure. So if you're looking for the answer, that's what it is. You want to be yourself. And the world systems are very complicated for how to figure that out. But like I said, what I want to offer is there isn't a simple solution to your problems or to the world's problems. And we can figure it out. We can figure it out one step at a time. If we are willing to let go of looking for evil, looking for savior, looking for disclosure. And we start to look instead for patterns, how this has been, how it's been forever, and why are we doing what we're doing? Where is this coming from? What's the objective harm and what's the objective good? And how can we have more of the thing that we actually want? And how can we learn from the things that are objectively painful for how that is not how reality works? Because that's all it is. We're just trying to make systems that are more and more and more in alignment with this, how reality works. So like I said, I don't believe that anyone at the top of the systems that we have now are thriving. They're not. They have had to sacrifice their humanity just as much as everybody else. In order to be successful in these systems we have today, you have to sacrifice your humanity. And I don't see that as a success. I don't see that as happiness. They have a lot of stuff, they have a lot of power, and I wouldn't trade lives with them. I would never sacrifice myself to have success in that system. I don't believe that's what success is, right? And all of us, what we're being told success is. We need to question that. What is enough? What is good enough? We all feel guilty for not working, or we are unproductive, and all. The whole system needs to be rethought. So, what's my takeaway here? Reality is complex. We are nature and we want to express ourselves. And if we can start to see that that's at the root of everything that we're doing, we'll stop being so judgmental of ourselves and others. And we stop looking for evil and we stop looking for good. And we start looking for where's the benefit and where's the harm. And that's real reality. So how do we start to align with real reality? And it's going to mean we get rejected. And it's going to mean we lose people. And it's going to mean that people don't understand us. And it can't be coming from a place of rebellion, right? That there's so many people out there who consider themselves light workers or whatever, and they're just rebelling. They're just being contrary. That's no closer to reality than the sheeple who are going along with consensus. We need to look for results. What are the results? What are the actual results that we get? Right? Is modern medicine helpful? Look at the results. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. Are natural remedies good? Sometimes. Sometimes not. We can't be looking for what is the right thing and what is the bad thing. We have to just look pragmatically. What are the results we get from each thing? Reality will always show itself if we look. And so we have to let go of our bias of anything being good or bad or right or wrong. Always good, always bad. It isn't. Reality is gray. And that's what's so scary. That's why we cling to religion. That's why we cling to government. That's why we cling to belief systems, because it makes it black and white. But reality isn't black and white. So if we stop looking for black and white, we start looking at everything as gray. And so what is actually pragmatically helpful? What takes us forward? That's what's good. Okay? Nobody is evil. Everyone is working from pain. It doesn't mean that what they're doing is helpful. It doesn't mean that what they're doing or how the systems that they're setting up are things we want to continue on. But they're not evil. They're working from whatever they know. And if we can just stop fighting for a second and then just say, okay, well, what's beneficial about this and what's not beneficial about this, and how can we move forward pragmatically, we're going to have a better time. Because attacking people and telling them that they're evil, it just makes us double down, because we're all so afraid of being rejected. So I don't really see the benefit in that. I understand we want to do it because it feels good for us to reject things emotionally, but people aren't evil. Systems aren't evil. They're ignorant. So in your life, look for results. When you're following somebody, look for results. If what they're saying isn't actually playing out in reality, they're wrong. Let them be wrong. Reality is right. Reality never gets it wrong. If something goes a different way than what you thought it was going to go, reality didn't get it wrong. We have to start to look at results. And what is our next step? And how can we be complex? And stop looking for the perfect thing and just look for the next thing. Because if we do that over and over and over again, we get somewhere. Okay? So that's that. I hope that helps. And yeah, you can figure it out one step at a time. Look for results. Be in the moment. What's actually occurring? What do you want? What are you getting? What are you not getting? Where's the harm? What can we learn from this? That's the solution. Okay. I love you. You're amazing. You can do it.